on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. I've got some major information to share with you guys around the idea that Bill Barr may be preparing to drop the hammer. I honestly, folks, I think we're honestly sitting at the precipice where things are about to get a little stranger. I think this is truly the calm before the storm or the next storm. I don't know. We've had so many hurricanes this year, right? Like the next hurricane. But whatever the case is, 2020 will be forever remembered as the year we took our country back. One of the most powerful things to show is the supporters that were out in Washington, D.C. on Saturday. Today's the Sunday, the 15th. On Saturday, we had an amazing number of people. These are what true patriots are. This is what the people that are center and right-leaning, or at least pro-Trump, this is how we protest. Now, you will see no fires in the background. You will see no anger or violence. But in fact, what you will see is a bunch of people doing something that's extremely beautiful. Check it out. Friggin' love it. Absolutely awesome. That's how we roll. We don't go out and we don't cause problems. Now, there were some problems that happened. There were some arrests. And of course, obviously the media is going to blame everybody on the right. But as it's turned out, there's definitely was some Antifa and Black Lives Matter movements that were happening in the same area. So, I mean, of course, you can expect it. But one thing that I thought was pretty cool is Trump once again gets out in the tank. I mean, look how thick these windows are, man. This is a thick window. Like, you'd have to hit that with an RPG to even have a chance to get through this thing. This thing is a tank. But that being said, Trump made his rounds amongst all the people. Think about how awesome that is, right? You trek all the way out there to D.C. Now, if you're lucky enough to be even anywhere near the street where he was driving, but how cool that is, right? Like, this guy is truly loved. Way more than Biden. Biden's, like, people on the left, the Antifa and BLM people are already starting to protest him, right? He's not left enough. Biden is not even making his own party happy. Pretty much a lot of people that are at least pro-Trump, I will not say necessarily in the party, because there's a lot of people that aren't Republicans that support Trump. Trump is someone that literally has crossed divides a lot better. He's picked up more Hispanic votes, more African-American votes, more votes from all sorts of different places. Plus, he's even picked up women, way more women than any Republican before. So very, very powerful stuff is at work with our wonderful current president. We'll say it that way. Of course, you know, because AP decided already, the Associated Press and Fox already decided who the winner is, even though there's all sorts of litigation coming, and we'll get into some of that. And speaking of examples of people overstepping their bounds, someone that I'm not real fond of, Mussolini, because he happens to be in charge of the state I live in, and I guess we're about to go into another lockdown. I'm so disappointed, so unhappy. Going out to a restaurant tonight just to get like that one of those last moments in. But California governor violated the Constitution with the mail ballot order. The judge has ruled. We're going to start seeing more and more of this. But they said, I don't know if you guys remember some of the quotes in the past, follow California, watch California, see what happens in California. This is what's happening in this wonderful, crazy state that I live in. So things are actually happening, even though it might seem like things are going in a different direction. I'm still speculating that that may not be quite as true as people on the left, or really the deep state. Really the deep state, and I'd prefer to call it the deep state because, one, there are some nasty buggers on the right that are part of the deep state, okay? Got to get them out too. But two, I don't want this to seem like I have a problem with Democrats. I don't. Democrats are fine. Love you guys. You guys are the best. Love Democrats. What I don't like is deep state people. Anybody that's part of the swamp, don't like you. I just don't. I'm not going to say I hate you because I don't hate anybody, but I don't like you. And so that's where my concerns really are. Now, speaking of people talking about how there's no legal thing going on, there's no evidence of anything wrong, like nobody's seen anything, don't look behind here. Well, Sidney Powell, who really, General Flynn's lawyer, if you think about some of the people that have now turned onto Trump's team. I'm trying to paint this from a picture without so much spelling things out because of the way things played out. But the video I did yesterday, right? You've got AG Barr, you've got Mnuchin, you've got Powell, you've got Pompeo, you've got, and I'm missing a couple people, Wolf, you got a couple people that are right around Trump that are truly pro-Trump. There's no questioning that. And then on top of that, we've got Giuliani, we've got Powell. Flynn knows where the bodies are buried. Again, there is a lot, and Flynn was involved in intelligence. Trust me, there are so many things that are happening under the scenes that none of us know about, that none of us have a clue about. They're happening, okay? We're not going to even know about it, but we will get some hints about some of it happening. And that's really what gets me into the crux of this. Bill Barr, Attorney General Bill Barr. Apparently, and some of this is speculation from someone close, from sources close to Bill Barr, right? Like, believe that for what it's worth. We'll believe it when we see it, but it is funny how the left-leaning media would just make up stuff. I'm actually not trying to make up stuff. It's actually people supposedly that are close to him, but again, we'll see. But one of the things to keep in mind, and this is to paint the picture for the next story I've got for us, so that really, I think, spells it out. There's like 6 key things that they think Barr is probably going to work on. And it's really neat how this next story kind of lays it out. But here, now a lot of people say, why hasn't things happened? This isn't happening fast enough, right? Grumpy. I get you. It's not happening fast enough for shizzle. No question about it. But this is how it has to happen. So let's kind of read here a couple paragraphs. If the Justice Department is to tackle the biggest politically motivated criminal conspiracy in American history, it cannot itself be tainted with the perception of political bias in the administration of justice. Of course, nothing will prevent the left from insisting that the prosecution of their fellow travelers is political, but whatever fair-minded people are left in this country will almost certainly consider Bill Barr's refusal to bring charges before the election as pretty solid defense that he was not trying to mess with the elections, right? He waited until after the elections. So there's also the reality of the prosecutor worldview, which the public doesn't easily grasp. Veteran prosecutors who handle big criminal conspiracy cases, such as Rudy Giuliani, wink, wink, wonder why he's here, but such as Rudy Giuliani did in the mafia-controlled New York in the 1980s, they live in a world where there's usually just one chance to cast their net, and so they want to ensure they catch as many co-conspirators as possible when they finally pull the trigger. As soon as they act, the whole network scatters like roaches into cracks and holes where they start destroying evidence as fast as possible. Prosecutors also want the net to include the top crooks, who are usually masters at ensuring there is minimal evidence of their involvement. Getting the goods on them takes time. So on the matter of the great election theft of 2020, the conspiracy is much, much bigger than what the Durham investigation uncovered. Let's stop right there for a second and just really take that in, right? They went to look into how the spying on top of the campaign and all, right? Like, let's really dig into all the things that happened, what led into FISA and all this, right? And as they dug into it, what they found, or what Durham found, is that things were way, way bigger than what they initially even thought. They knew going into this was a huge conspiracy, but it was even bigger than what they thought based off of what Durham's investigation uncovered and its ultimate object, the theft of presidency by voter fraud. This all needed to play out to fruition. People had to see this, which was technically today, November 12th, the last day in North Carolina of late vote counting of all the Democratic vote by mail counting extensions. So this was, of course, on the 12th when this article was read, but today's 15th, still pretty apropos. Today, the conspiratorial effort, the crime itself, is complete as to the evidence of voter fraud and all of its myriad forms, meaning the election's over. All of the crimes have been committed, and now it is time to round everything up, present it with a bow on it, and then basically scatter and grab people all in one fell swoop. Now, is this that like 3 days they've talked about? There's all these different dates, right? We have 10 Days of Darkness, which I currently think finished on Friday. I do think that actually played out well. But they also talked about 3 days. I don't know. There's all sorts of little weird dates where I think maybe rounding up is going to happen. That all being said, there is certainly evidence still uncovered, but all the actors have played their parts. The crime is done, and it's just a matter of tying the case together in one package. There will be additional crimes related to the inevitable cover-up and damage control efforts of individual conspirators, but as of now, the waiting game is over for the Justice Department. Which means Barr's taking his gloves off, and that's pretty darn cool. So I think we're looking good in that regard. Now, this is surprisingly cool. The Gateway Pundit did a very good article here. I'm going to play like a few seconds of this video. I think I can probably get away with 15, 20 of it. But you can kind of get a feel for the anger that Bill Barr is feeling. Now, this happened before the election, and just to paint it out a little bit, what they're talking about is this transition to vote by mail. And Bill Barr kind of gets noticeably frustrated. Let's give this a couple seconds here and see what you think.
Well, this is playing with fire. This is playing with fire. We're a very closely divided country here. And if people have to have confidence in the results of the election and the legitimacy of the government, and people trying to change the rules to this methodology, which as a matter of logic is very open to fraud and coercion, is reckless and dangerous. And the people are playing with fire.
So again, he points it out very well, and I guess I'm playing a little bit of YouTube, but I'm already on the non-monetized side of things, so they can't get too terribly mad at me. By the way, thank you, people that have PayPal'd me. I've had some amazing people, and your support has made an amazing difference. There's a link below if you're able to help. Appreciate that. Please like, thumbs up, subscribe, share these videos. YouTube is definitely fighting some of us that are trying to do this work. That being said, getting a taste of how Bill Barr is a little on the grumpy side, as you can kind of feel. And this guy basically says, I have a dear friend who knows Barr very well. Rarely does he show this kind of visceral anger. There's parts where he seems a little more visceral than this particular location. It was about the only place where I could really find enough of it. But that all being said, Barr, following DOJ protocol, sent a letter authorizing federal prosecutors across the U.S. to pursue substantial allegations. This was a big step that happened, and this was, last Monday, I believe, right? So the same day the DOJ official in charge of voter fraud investigations, this Richard Pilger guy, resigned. So back on Monday, and this was Monday last week, which would have been, to put days on it, probably the 9th, right? Monday the 9th. Bill Barr basically says, look, any substantial allegations, you guys have permission to go at it full force. On top of that, the guy that was involved or responsible for voter fraud investigations, Richard Pilger, resigned. Why do you think that happened, right? So again, one of the other things, he was supposedly a compromised deep stater, and a lot of us believe that this resignation was probably encouraged by Barr. In tandem with that move, President Trump also fired Secretary of Defense Esper, right? This was a big day. And the reason I believe is simple. Trump wanted to ensure he had someone running the DOD who was not going to meddle in domestic politics. He wants people to follow the law. If laws have been broken, if the Constitution has been broken, I want you to follow it. I don't want this to be deep state or essentially political. And really, what that means is you're either deep state or you're pro-America. And I really do think that's where we're at in the big scheme. So Trump and Barr are not rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. They are literally making sure that loyal people are in place who will ensure that the orders of the president are enforced. Now, the first real thing they point out of the 6, I promised you, 6 states, right? So when the election happened, 6 states stopped counting the votes on election night at approximately the same time. 5 of those 6 are actually with Democrat governors. Now, let's just point out some of the numbers, and this is what's sort of interesting. Pennsylvania at 64% in. It was a 57% by Trump versus 41.8% Biden. Michigan, Trump was up 54 to 44.4. Georgia, Trump was up 53.1 to Biden's 45.6. North Carolina, a little closer for sure, but Trump was still up at 50.1% over Joseph Biden. Again, Michigan, we had a 10-point swing. 10-point swing with 59% in. And in Wisconsin, we had a 51% at Trump and 46.8% with Biden. Again, Trump was pretty handedly winning in all of these places. Now, what's interesting, right, and obviously once the night happened and everyone woke up the following morning, these numbers had significantly changed, and the counting of these ballots weren't supposed to happen outside of the eyes of the poll watchers. That was first one of the big key problems that happened, and that a lot of people realized, okay, they're covering something up. Something doesn't feel right. If you're doing things behind closed doors and you won't let people look at you, you're pretty much probably guilty, period. I mean, end of story. Otherwise, let me see. If you're hiding it from me, I don't trust you. That's not okay. So the second thing, millions of dollars had flowed to Black Lives Matter and then were rerouted to Act Blue, which in turn deposited this money into the coffers of the Democrats. This was not legal either. It is criminal for a charitable organization to divert those funds to political campaigns. This is AKA money laundering. Third, hundreds of thousands of ballots suddenly appeared in the middle of the night in several of these contested states where Trump was ahead. In Michigan, for example, over 200,000 ballots for Biden appeared magically. Pennsylvania's mail-in ballots show similar problems. More than 20,000 absentee ballots in Pennsylvania have impossible return dates, and another more than 80,000 have return dates that raise questions according to researchers' analysis of the state voter database. Over 51,000 ballots were marked as returned just a day after they were sent out, meaning the absentee ballot was sent out and then immediately returned the following day. It's almost impossible that they were postmarked and actually got to the recipient that quickly, let alone they filled it out and then managed to get it postmarked the following day. So hard to believe as well. We returned the next day and we're all sent out on extraordinary speed, right? So while nearly 35,000 were returned on the same day that they were mailed out, which is borderline impossible, another more than 23,000 have a return date that is earlier than they were sent. Huh? Wait, 23,000 absentee ballots actually were postmarked with an earlier date than they were sent to the voter. That's impossible. Something's not right. Now, whether it's an irregularity, a glitch, fraud, I don't know, but it's one of many things that show that we've got issues all over. And this is just 2 of the 6 major states that are really in question. Fourth, ballots also were filled out for voters without their knowledge and did not reflect their true choice. A number of Pennsylvania voters were furious last week when they found that their mail-in ballots had already been filled in for Democrats when they got them. Bauer said the ballots that were already filled out and arrived at homes 40 miles apart, 40 miles away, okay? Which he says means they are not isolated incidents, which I would agree, right? It's not like the dude broke into their mailbox, filled it out, and shoved it back in the mailbox. These are 40 miles apart. That's quite a racket if the same person's driving around from 40 miles apart. So someone literally stole my vote is what this Delmas Fike said. Fike said when his mail-in ballot arrived, each Democrat was already selected. He had a pre-approved voter registration thing, right? Like already, you don't even need to worry about filling it out. We're going to send it to you. We just want you to pay for the stamp to send it back. That's all. So fifth, just to continue on, the voting machines were controlled by entities closely tied to Democrats and their far left. I talked a bunch about this, by the way, in yesterday's video. Hopefully I remember to put a link of it here. But a great video. At the end of this, if you want, go back to yesterday's. A freaking awesome video that I did. I hate to... it was good, though. By the way, this Lord Mark Malik Brown, which is a lot of names, a George Soros lieutenant, whose company Smarty Tech is intimately tied to Dominion voting system, who flipped votes for Trump to Biden, allegedly. There is proof in the one location where votes got flipped. They said it was a glitch. All right, I'm just saying. But there's a number of other places where this same software was used, and as we found out, the servers for this software were in other countries, and the owners of this product were also in other countries, and decisions potentially made about these votes were made from Spain, which is where the Citl or whatever their company's called was located. So there's definitely some very interesting things and an executive order, see yesterday's video, that ties a lot of that together. It's very, very powerful stuff. So that being said, this whole machine thing that was happening was used in swing states specifically. And this would explain why Michigan's 200,000 vote sudden dump of Biden ballots, while Wisconsin got 100,000 Biden vote dump late night delivery. That's just hard to say, first off. But basically, it helps explain how suddenly a whole bunch of votes could show up. Secondly, It might also explain a lot of these voter things that were filled out where it was literally just the president for Biden that was filled out and nothing else. They didn't vote down party lines. They didn't vote for anything else at all, just voted for Biden. There is lots of evidence of those votes that occurred, which is super strange. So people, of course, are looking into that. So on top of this, Dominion voting system is also compromised. So Dominion voting system has ties to prominent Democrats, and this is true, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Bill and Hillary Clinton. Boy, there's three names you know you can trust. Bloomberg, out of all places, kind of left-leaning site, of course, reported in April of last year that Dominion voting system hired a high-powered lobbying firm that includes a longtime aide to Pelosi. They hired Brownstein, Farber, Hyatt, and Schreck. Really? Schreck? Nadim Helshami, Pelosi's former chief of staff, is one of the lobbyists on the account. In 2014, Dominion was listed in the Washington Post table as having donated between $25,000 and $50,000 to the Clinton Foundation. So, a lot of questions around that. And sixth, finally, the media and social media companies made no pretense of opposing Trump and favoring Biden. The major media polls falsely and wrongly claimed Joe Biden had an enormous lead over Donald Trump. In his latest podcast with Sun and pollster Jeremy Zogby, John Zogby said that polls showing a bigger Biden lead are using a bad model, one that includes far too many Democrats. His model follows the partisan turnout in 2016 that was about 34% Republicans and about 38% Democrats. We believe that is a more accurate reflection of the turnout model, he said. But others showing a big Biden lead overweigh Democrats. Now some of the polls that have come out, I find troubling, he said, citing CNN, Fox, and YouGov. They give an average 15-point advantage to Democrats. And CNN had it at a 16-point lead. So again, most of these polls, especially Fox, CNN, and all these guys, were just absolutely wrong. He's saying, is it a mythological error, a methodological, meaning the method that they use in there? He's saying, no, it's a deliberate information operation designed to discourage Trump voters. Fortunately, the Trump crowd ignored this propaganda, and this is very true. So again, on top of that, we've had Twitter and Facebook that has dropped all pretenses of providing a free forum for discussion. They clamp down and continue to do so on anyone who dares to challenge the social media meme that the vote was fraud-free or tries to present information not favorable to Joe Biden. So we've seen a very large array of stuff that has happened. And Bill Barr is well aware of a lot of this information. And apparently there were probably some spying on the spiers that was happening. I'm sure they're paying a lot of attention to what was going on with Dominion. And again, I am like I was telling my brother today, it feels like to me that things are about to kick up to the next set of crazy. I don't know what that is. I have no idea how that plays out. But I will say, at this point, I'm starting to feel, and maybe I'm just crazy, I'm going to say that up front, but I'm starting to feel more and more like after all of this legal stuff happens and after some other interesting things happen, I think we're probably looking at another 4 years of Donald Trump, and I think we've got some major changes coming and some very, very concerned, scared people that are going to go to all lengths to try to keep this from happening. I don't believe they can stop it. I really don't at this point. I think they've already committed the crimes. I think the evidence is already in existence. I think the evidence is already in people's hands. I don't think there's any way that they can turn back the hands on this crime, and I don't think they've got people in the right places to keep this from happening. I think we've seen the last few changes happen recently that are basically the final nails in this coffin. We're going to see how this plays out, but I'm almost sure things are about to get a bit spicier, so we'll see how that goes. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.